Good afternoon, Tar Heels. Here's what's going on at Carolina right now. I'm sitting here with the director of CAPS at UNC, Dr. Alan O'Barr. Thank you so much for being here with me, Dr. O'Barr.
Thank you.
So several of the survivors of the shooting said that they were not surprised to hear that their former student, Nicholas Cruz, is the suspected shooter, and that there were many signs that he was mentally disturbed and that he'd even been expelled for his erratic behavior. Being a psychiatrist, what behavioral signs would you say a potential suspect might exhibit that people should be aware of?
Well, that's a little bit more complicated than a few minutes, but it's a shooter's not born overnight. It's a progress of things. I think that the signs that someone is in distress are the signs to look for. So someone who is alone, feels socially disconnected, perhaps is angry, irritable, frequently they're targets of bullying. Those types of things are the things, if you spot someone who seems like they're already ostracized from the group, that is someone that you want to do your best to try to bring into the group.
Right. So what should be done if these behaviors are noticed? Do we approach the student? Do we report it to CAPS?
So if we're talking about on campus right now, I think it's entirely reasonable to approach the student, but I wouldn't just approach someone who, there was a time after Columbine where everybody was worried about anybody who was in a black trench coat. And of course there were lots of false positives in that.
Right.
So it's not so much about going up to someone that you've never talked to or seen. That might be a little bizarre. But I think trying to see if anybody knows that person or if anybody's sitting with that person. And then if you notice that a few times possibly in class that nobody's sitting with that individual or nobody seems to know anything about that individual, it might be worth approaching that person. I think a lot of times we'll get indications about a person's potential move towards being a shooter through their social media. There's a real desire, I believe, to put something out there to have some sort of legacy of what they were saying and what they were thinking. So when you see these things on social media, it should probably be reported right away.
Right, that makes sense. Do you think things like that could be fixed with something as simple as a smile or just like saying hi, introducing yourself?
You know, it depends on where you are in the whole time. I mean, if a person's already, yes, I would say the answer is yes. Even if a person already has built, you know, their weapon stockpile and they already have their plans, there could be something that affects how they perceive the world that might change their entire trajectory.
Right.
Yeah. So I can't say it's as simple as just saying hi or smiling or things like that, but I think, you know, I certainly remember multiple times in my life identifying someone who I knew felt ostracized. And I can also admit that at parts of the time I didn't want to have anything to do with that person because I didn't want to therefore be ostracized as well. Would I be able to go back and change those times? I would. I would have reached out and been kind to that person. You know, there was even an article in the Daily Tar Heel today about masculinity and guns, and I think sort of the masculine archetype is to be strong and silent and be able to take the pain and those types of things. And although those are some characteristics, I do think that some people are feeling much more alone and unable to connect, and anything we can do to help those individuals I think is well received.
Right, okay. And lastly, what actions can people take to promote positive mental health among their peers? Can little things like maybe sitting with someone who's by themselves at lunch make a difference? I know you talked about that a little bit, but could you go further into detail maybe?
Sure. I think just noticing someone who's alone and trying to make some sort of real life connection with them is what we could all be doing. I mean, on a global basis, we could be doing that. It's not a time in the world for fear. It's a time in the world for pulling together. And so I would definitely encourage people to try to make connection with anybody they can. Sometimes individuals are not interested in connection, or they're afraid that that connection is then going to lead to vulnerability and pain. And I think they're for the repeat connection. If I saw somebody and I tried to connect with them and they didn't connect, I might wait 2 or 3 days and I might just try again, not to be annoying or like a stalker or anything like that, but just, keep trying and it might make a difference.
All right, well, thank you so much. We'll definitely keep these insights in mind, and it was really awesome of you to take the time to have this very important discussion with us. And that's what's going on at Carolina right now. Be sure to follow us on our other social media, and if you see something you'd like us to cover, tag us.